Hello and welcome back to Daily Shakespeare. My name is Michael, and today is Tuesday, which means we're going to be taking a look at a tragedy. And today's tragedy is easily the most famous tragic love story in the entire world, Romeo and Juliet. This is a play that gets a lot of flack from hardcore Shakespeare fans because it's overdone, overproduced, and because it tends to be about love and the things that young people do in love. It gets a lot of noise about simply being infatuation, that it's a terrible love story, that these kids barely know each other, why would they do that? Throw all of that aside. This play is so important because this is so easily the early gateway play into the works of Shakespeare for so many people. I myself personally don't ever remember being told the story of Romeo and Juliet, but I remember knowing it. And I remember knowing that when somebody compared another romance to Romeo and Juliet, that it was a forbidden love, that it was doomed. And I knew this for years before I had ever read the play. Today we're going to look at one of the most famous speeches that Romeo speaks in it. Beneath Juliet's balcony, after the dance where first they met. It's a speech that I really love. The poetry in this is absolutely delightful. You can really see a man in Shakespeare who knows and has experienced love and knows the breaths that young lovers can sigh and that they can really work themselves into a frenzy quite easily. Even if you take this play away from love at first sight, true love at first sight, and merely make it about infatuation, it doesn't make the play have any less impact. It doesn't mean that the story is still bad. Their two families are still holding this ancient war between one another. And infatuation or no, had they set this aside, these kids could have figured this out on their own and not ended so bleakly and tragically. This play is such a fabric of our being that there are even laws in certain states called Romeo and Juliet laws, having to deal with certain age gaps between people that were not so insurmountable when they met, but later on in life became more ridiculous as a way to help these star-crossed lovers, so to speak, to get together. It's a play that's influence is absolutely staggering. You should look no further than when you ask a group of young children what Shakespeare play they would most like to look at. Romeo and Juliet is at the top of everyone's list. This is an important play with some important poetry. And I'm going to let Romeo take it from the base of the balcony before he scales the wall. Before all the tragedy happens, there is this love. But soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon, who is already sick and pale with grief, that thou, her maid, art far more fair than she. Be not her maid, since she is envious. Her vestal livery is but sick and green, and none but fools do wear it. Cast it off. It is my lady, oh, it is my love. Oh, that she knew she were. She speaks, yet she says nothing. What of that? Her eye discourses. I will answer it. I am too bold. 'Tis not to me she speaks. Two of the fairest stars in all the heaven, having some business, do entreat her eyes to twinkle in their spheres till they return. What if her eyes were there, they in her head? The brightness of her cheek would shame the stars. As daylight doth a lamp her eyes in heaven, would through the airy region stream so bright that birds would sing and think it were not night. See how she leans her cheek upon that hand. Oh, that I were a glove upon that hand, that I might touch that cheek. Such beautiful, beautiful poetry. We're going to be taking a look at Romeo and Juliet fairly often throughout all of this. There are really, really, really incredible speeches littered throughout here. In fact, there may be something of a hidden gem speech from Romeo and Juliet happening this coming Saturday as a spoiler. But as always, if you have any comments about the show, what you like, what you don't like, I'd love to hear that in the comments section below. That's also a great place where you can suggest more speeches for us to do. Tomorrow is Villain Wednesday, and I would love to hear if there are any villains that you particularly want to hear from. But for now, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow.